I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
He may not be the most politically correct comedian in town, but that's what makes Rob Schneider so gosh darn interesting. He's not afraid to push the limits of silliness. That's right, he will go there just to make you laugh. Even if you hate him, your human instinct to at least chuckle at his absolute absurdity cannot be stopped. In other words, he can do it.
You can do it!
Why, yes, he can do it. He can do it all. He can play anything and anybody of any race or ethnicity or species, perfectly playing around with preconceived stereotypes from all cultures equally. Like it or not, he can play an Asian preacher, a Mexican cowboy, a Pakistani taxi driver, a Native American, a Middle Eastern businessman, a red-headed surfer ninja, a generic foreign delivery man, a generic foreign landlord, a pothead Hawaiian, an American gigolo, an animal, a Rachel McAdams, and any direct-to-video cartoon you can imagine. But at the end of the day, he's just Rob.
And I think, you know, if I'm going to only play characters that are part Filipino and part German and Russian and Portuguese, then like what's that guy? You know, I think you should be allowed to play anything.
Lately, it feels like we have been seeing less and less of this funny man. And for a while, it seemed like he was on a fast track to become the next Adam Sandler. But he never quite reached those heights, and ended up just flourishing in silly supporting roles in his buddy Adam Sandler's films. But don't get me wrong, Rob Schneider is way more than just Adam Sandler's goofy friend. But mostly we just want to know what the f*** happened to Rob Schneider.
You can do it, my singer, all night long.
Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also, click that bell to get notifications for future content. Now, let's get back to the show. But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Rob Schneider, we must start at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, Halloween, 1963, San Francisco. Young Mr. Schneider began performing stand-up while in high school, opening for local San Francisco area bands. In 1987, Schneider got a big opportunity to open for comedian Dennis Miller, which led him to getting a slot on HBO's 13th annual Young Comedian Special, and that gig landed him a spot as a writer on Saturday Night Live, SNL. Schneider quickly went from writer to full cast member on Saturday Night Live, alongside people like Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, Chris Rock, and David Spade. Schneider had several reoccurring characters, most notably the office worker who would play the name game with his co-workers. Hilarious. And the you can put your weed in there guy. Schneider would receive 3 much-deserved Emmy nominations for his time on SNL. And while he was working on Saturday Night Live, Rob Schneider would fill out his resume by appearing in Martians Go Home, 2 episodes of Coach, and Necessary Roughness. In 1992, Rob Schneider would appear in the Christmas classic Home Alone Dose, Lost in New York, playing Cedric. And of course, this box office blockbusting sequel still ranks as his highest grossing film to date, with $359 million worldwide.
Cedric?
Yes?
Don't count your chips in public.
In 1993, Schneider would appear in Surf Ninjas, which is probably one of the best films about surfing ninjas from that time period. And Schneider would also appear in Demolition Man, and it is hilarious how his character finds it hilarious that Stallone doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. And everybody knows how to use the 3 seashells, right, everybody? And even though he doesn't have that much screen time, Rob Schneider's character really helps the audience see the humor in this pitch-perfect sci-fi satire. So thanks, Rob. Also that same year, he would appear in the big screen adaptation of the popular 1960s sitcom, The Beverly Hillbillies, which received mostly negative reviews, but it did make a pretty decent $57.4 million. Sylvester Stallone must have enjoyed working with Rob Schneider because he cast him again in Judge Dredd, 1995. Those pesky critics, they generally hated the movie, and it ended up on several worst of the year lists. But the film would go on to make $113 million, and has been kind of more appreciated later, I guess. In 1996, we would see Rob Schneider appear in Down Periscope, a submarine comedy. Critics found the script to be mostly unfunny, which is a big problem because this is a comedy. Then we would see Schneider star opposite Jonathan Taylor Thomas, The Adventures of Pinocchio in 1996. He would also show up in an episode of Seinfeld. The year 1998 would kick off with him playing the comic relief to yet another 80s action star, Jean-Claude Van Damme, in the counterfeit jeans action flick, Knock Off. Critics did not enjoy this one. They said it had stiff acting, yet it was still able to pull in $44 million at the box office. Rob would follow that up with a John Landis-directed film called Susan's Plan. The film premiered at the AFI Film Festival, where it received horrible audience reactions, and because of this, it was released direct-to-video 2 years later. Then, Rob Schneider delivered his most powerful performance yet. A performance which only needed one line to capture our hearts in Adam Sandler's The Waterboy, where he would deliver that iconic line, "You can do it," thus inspiring generations to go out there and do it. And let's be honest, it takes a special kind of comedic talent to deliver one line and turn it into an instant catchphrase. But of course, since it is a silly Adam Sandler movie, this would be the beginning of the big divide between those critics and those audience members. As the critics said that The Waterboy was an insult to the genre with cheap gags, audiences ate this up to a tune of $190 million at the box office, proving that Schneider's catchphrase was not just meant for Bobby Boucher, but for the film as a whole. It could do it, and it did. And Rob Schneider did too.
You can do it! You can do it! You can do it! Cut his fucking head off! You can do it! You can do it all night long!
Then we would see him pop up in the show Ally McBeal, and he would quickly jump back on that Adam Sandler train, where he would appear as a delivery man from a foreign country of some sort, in the film Big Daddy. The role, along with Steve Buscemi's, was originally much smaller, but with the success of Waterboy, the studio gave Adam Sandler more money, and he used that money to expand on Rob Schneider's scenes. And he's actually probably one of the funniest Rob Schneider characters he's ever created, even though he would be nominated for a Razzie as Worst Supporting Actor.
But my cat, he bite his head off.
What kind of cat would do that?
You calling me a liar?
Then he would appear in a movie with the Muppets, Muppets in Space. At this time in his career, he was feeling like Hollywood was just not giving him the opportunities he needed to grow. So with the advice of Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider wrote his own film. And that film would be called Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. And of course, critics hated the film, they called it dumb. But that didn't matter because audiences still flocked to this funny flick. And this Gigolo was able to earn $92.9 million at the box office. It was at this time that we had so much hope in Rob. We knew that he could conquer the world of comedy and cinema. And he almost did. Then came the new millennium, where Rob Schneider would reprise his Waterboy role of the townie in the film Little Nicky. It was at this point where he kind of became the Stan Lee of Adam Sandler movies. Always waiting for him to appear, and when he does, it's always great. And a little goes a long way.
You can do it, Nicky! No! You can do it, Ozzy! Bite his freaking head off! No!
With the success of Deuce Bigalow, Rob Schneider proved that he could be a successful leading man. So it was time for him to headline a movie again, where this time he becomes an animal in the film The Animal. The Animal made $85 million at the box office, and a lot of critics appreciated the imagination behind this film. A nice summer comedy. And even though it wasn't getting horrible reviews, the studio created a fake film critic to give it good reviews just in case. Yikes. But yeah, The Animal. In the year 2002, Rob Schneider would continue to help his pal Adam Sandler by appearing in his films Mr. Deeds and the stupid Hanukkah classic 8 Crazy Nights. Then Rob Schneider became a hot chick. This is the one where he like Freaky Friday's Rachel McAdams. Those pesky critics, they called this film one note, and Rob received a Razzie nomination, not just for Worst Actor of the Year, but Worst Actor of the Decade. But this hot chick made $54.6 million at the box office. But the best part to come out of this whole thing was when South Park decided to poke fun at the formula that made Rob Schneider so successful, creating fake trailers which serve as the perfect parody of Rob. And yeah, these South Park jokes were so funny and so true that no one could ever look at a Rob Schneider movie the same way again, which I'm sure caused him to kind of change the direction of his career. In 2004, Schneider would lend a supporting hand to Adam Sandler again in 50 First Dates, playing a Hawaiian.
Sharks, they only bite when you touch the private parts.
And as a San Francisco hobo in Around the World in 80 Days, with yet another small role in Adam Sandler's remake of The Longest Yard, where he got to tell them that they could do it again.
You can do it! Get that old ass of yours in the end zone! We gotta win this thing!
Rob would then return to the world of pimping in Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo. Because now he's in Europe, proving that if you get nominated enough times, eventually you'll win, as Schneider would finally win the Razzie Award for Worst Actor. And yeah, critics absolutely hated this unnecessary sequel, calling it aggressively bad.
I'm Deuce Bigalow. I'm a Gigolo from America.
He would then appear in Grandma's Boy, a very underrated comedy, playing a landlord of some foreign land of some sort. Then he would star in The Benchwarmers, where this time he played the straight man in a cast of crazy, kooky characters. But of course, those critics found this sports comedy to be pretty stupid, but it still managed to make a decent $65 million at the box office. Then he would appear in Adam Sandler's Click, wearing politically incorrect Oscar-nominated makeup. And he would appear in Little Man, wearing a dinosaur costume.
I just got out of rehab.
He would finish off 2006 by lending his vocals to Sharkbait, a South Korean-produced film which was originally titled The Reef. The following year, he would help out Adam Sandler again by appearing in a very controversial role in a very controversial movie that would in no way ever be made today in today's political climate. I am, of course, referring to I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, where Schneider plays an Asian minister. And before you say anything, apparently the makeup artist was Asian and was totally cool with it. So Rob was like, okay, I guess it's totally cool. But then later, the people of Twitter told him it's not! But he didn't care, because he's Rob Schneider.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this whole thing about, like, you're not allowed to play something outside your race, well, I think there's only one race, the human race.
Then came a big step forward for Rob Schneider, as he would take the leap into directing with his first film, Big Stan, about a man going to prison for fraud who hires a martial arts guru to teach him to fight the other inmates. The film was direct-to-video with a very limited theatrical release, but lots of critics called this one just one big, unfunny mistake. But I say at least he's trying. Then in 2008, Schneider would fill out his resume by appearing in 2 more Adam Sandler films, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, as a taxi driver from Pakistan, and Bedtime Stories, as a Native American indigenous person human man. Adam Sandler seems like a really good friend to have. And I actually mean that.
I can do it.
But the next year he would appear in 2 non-Adam Sandler films, the direct-to-video film called Wild Cherry, and another direct-to-video film called American Virgin.
Saturday night, Detroit, 6:30.
Mr. Kurtzman, chicks go crazy!
After those 2 duds, I'm sure it was a welcome sound when Rob Schneider heard the phone ring, and on the other side was Adam Sandler's voice, telling him to come on vacation with him, Chris Rock, David Spade, Kevin James, and several other buddies. Just come out and have a good time, and oh yeah, make a movie too, called Grown Ups. And it was a very good decision because this became the 2nd highest grossing film he's featured in, pulling in $271 million. And of course, it has that amazing, hilarious ensemble cast. Although of that entire ensemble cast, it was Rob Schneider who would be the one and only guy singled out at the Razzies. Which, you know what, that's kind of an honor in a way. And even though the movie isn't exactly good, it's just fun to see all those guys on the screen together. But Rob Schneider would not appear in the sequel because his wife decided to get pregnant and he was at her side. You know, because he's a real grown-up.
That was awesome!
In 2010, we would see Rob Schneider step behind the camera again for the dramedy, The Chosen One. It received negative reviews, yet most critics pointed out that Rob Schneider's more dramatic acting was actually really good. In the year 2011, Rob Schneider would appear in something called You May Not Kiss the Bride, playing a crazy helicopter pilot. Rob Schneider would then focus his creative energy and need to pay the bills on quite a few less than top-notch animated projects, such as Elf Sparkle and the Special Red Dress, Top Cat, the movie, The Reef 2, High Tide, Jungle Shuffle, The Little Penguin, Poruru's Racing Adventure, The Frog Kingdom, Shelby, The Dog Who Saved Christmas, Wings, Skyforce Heroes, Ozzy,